When we talk about a day or a year on a planet, we're referring to two different things. A day is the amount of time it takes for the planet to complete one full rotation on its axis, just like how Earth takes 24 hours to complete a full rotation. A year, on the other hand, is the time it takes for the planet to orbit the Sun once. Every planet has its own unique way of spinning and moving around the Sun, so the length of a day and a year can vary a lot between planets. Now, Venus is a very special planet when it comes to this concept because it has a very unusual way of spinning. On Venus, a day is actually longer than a year. This means that it takes more time for Venus to rotate once on its axis than it does for it to complete its orbit around the Sun. Let's break this down further to understand why this happens. Venus is unique in the way it spins. Most planets, including Earth, rotate fairly quickly. For example, Earth takes just 24 hours to spin once, but Venus takes a lot longer to rotate, about 243 Earth days to complete one full rotation on its axis. That's over 8 months on Earth. Imagine if a single day on Earth lasted for 8 months. It would be a pretty strange way to experience time. But that's not all. Venus rotates in the opposite direction compared to most planets in our solar system, including Earth. This means that if you were standing on the surface of Venus, the Sun would appear to rise in the west and set in the east, which is the opposite of what we see on Earth. This backward rotation is called retrograde rotation. The reason Venus rotates so slowly is still a mystery to scientists, but it's likely due to factors like gravitational interactions with other planets or a massive collision that happened long ago. Whatever the reason, Venus's slow rotation is a big part of why its day is so long. Now let's talk about the other part of the equation: a year on Venus. A year is the time it takes for a planet to complete its orbit around the Sun. Venus orbits the Sun at a distance much closer than Earth. It is the second planet from the Sun, with Earth being the third. Because of its proximity to the Sun, Venus moves in its orbit faster than Earth does. It takes just 225 Earth days for Venus to travel all the way around the Sun. This is quite a bit shorter than its day, which lasts 243 Earth days. So, a Venusian year is actually shorter than a Venusian day. In other words, Venus takes less time to complete one trip around the Sun than it takes for the planet to complete one rotation on its axis. This makes Venus one of the few places in our solar system where the length of a day is longer than the length of a year. At first glance, this might seem really strange. After all, on Earth, we have the opposite situation. A day is much shorter than a year. A day on Earth is 24 hours, and a year is 365 days. So, it's natural to assume that a day on every planet should be shorter than its year, but Venus breaks that rule. The reason Venus behaves this way is due to its very slow rotation speed. Since it spins so slowly, it takes more time to complete one full rotation compared to how long it takes for the planet to orbit the Sun. The fact that Venus has a retrograde rotation, spinning opposite to most planets, also adds to its unusual movement. A day on Venus might be incredibly long, but that doesn't mean it's a calm, peaceful experience. In fact, Venus has some of the harshest conditions in the entire solar system. One of the main reasons Venus is so inhospitable is because of its thick atmosphere, which is made mostly of carbon dioxide. This causes a runaway greenhouse effect, meaning the planet traps heat so well that its surface temperature is hot enough to melt lead, about 475 degrees Celsius. This extreme heat is the result of Venus's atmosphere, not just the amount of sunlight it gets. Despite the long days, it's always hot on Venus, no matter the time of day. Because Venus's day lasts for 243 Earth days, the Sun would take months to rise and set. However, because the atmosphere is so thick, you wouldn't even see the Sun clearly if you were standing on the planet's surface. The thick clouds completely block out the Sun's light, so the entire planet is bathed in a constant cloudy twilight. Also, even though the length of a day on Venus is long, it doesn't mean the planet experiences seasons like Earth. The tilt of Venus's axis is very small, only about 3 degrees compared to Earth's 23.5 degrees. So, Venus doesn't have significant seasonal changes like we do on Earth. Scientists study Venus in many ways to learn about its unusual features, including its long days. Space missions, telescopes, and even computer models are used to gather information about the planet. For example, NASA's Magellan spacecraft, which orbited Venus in the 1990s, mapped the planet's surface using radar. Other missions, like Akatsuki from Japan, are studying Venus's atmosphere and weather systems in more detail. These missions help us understand why Venus has such a slow rotation and why its year is shorter than its day. By studying Venus, scientists can learn more about how planets behave in different parts of the solar system. Venus is a good example of how unique and varied planets can be, with its extreme weather, strange rotation, and mysterious characteristics. In summary, Venus is a fascinating planet, with a day that is longer than its year, which is the opposite of what we experience on Earth. This happens because Venus spins extremely slowly on its axis, taking 243 Earth days to complete one rotation. But because it orbits the Sun much faster, in 225 Earth days, its year is shorter than its day. While this may seem strange, it's just one example of how the planets in our solar system can have very different characteristics. Venus's long day and short year make it a truly unique planet, and it continues to be a subject of study for scientists who want to learn more about the many mysteries of our solar system.